Some moments in life arrive without warning, carrying the power to reshape everything we thought we knew about ourselves. They come disguised as ordinary encounters: a chance meeting at a grocery store, an unexpected conversation on a park bench, or in this case, 5 simple words spoken by a 7-year-old girl to a complete stranger. Marcus Thompson had built his life around careful planning and emotional distance. At 38, he was a successful architect who measured his days in blueprints and deadlines, his relationships in professional handshakes and polite conversations. He had convinced himself that solitude was strength, that independence was the highest form of self-respect. Love, he believed, was a luxury he couldn't afford. Not after the devastation of his divorce 3 years earlier had left him questioning everything he thought he knew about commitment and trust. But on a rainy Tuesday afternoon in downtown Seattle, as he hurried past Pioneer Square with his collar turned up against the October wind, Marcus would discover that sometimes the universe has other plans. Sometimes it places a small hand in yours and asks you to choose between the safety of your carefully constructed walls and the terrifying, beautiful possibility of letting someone in. What happened next would challenge every assumption Marcus had made about family, race, love, and the profound courage it takes to say yes when life offers you an unexpected second chance. This is the story of how 5 words, "Mister, will you be my dad?" spoken by a little girl named Zara Williams, would transform 2 broken hearts into something neither of them had dared to hope for: a real family. In a world quick to focus on what divides us, this is a reminder that love recognizes no boundaries, that family isn't always about blood, and that sometimes the most important thing you can do is simply show up when someone needs you most. Marcus Thompson's leather dress shoes clicked against the wet pavement as he navigated through Pioneer Square, his mind already racing ahead to the client meeting waiting for him across town. The October rain had started as a light drizzle during lunch, but now fell in steady sheets, turning the historic Seattle Square into a maze of umbrellas and hurried footsteps. He checked his watch, 2:47 p.m. If he caught the next bus, he could still make it to the Morrison Building by 3:15. As he rounded the corner near the old pergola, Marcus noticed her. A small figure sat alone on one of the green benches, her legs swinging back and forth, too short to reach the ground. She couldn't have been more than 7 years old, with intricate braids adorned with colorful beads that caught what little light filtered through the gray afternoon. Her bright yellow raincoat was too big for her tiny frame, and she clutched a worn stuffed elephant that had seen better days. Most striking of all, she seemed completely unbothered by the rain soaking everything around her. Marcus slowed his pace. Where were her parents? He glanced around the square, searching for any adult who might be looking for a missing child. The lunch crowd had mostly dispersed, leaving only a few tourists huddled under the covered areas, and some homeless individuals seeking shelter. No one seemed to be searching for a little girl. He told himself to keep walking. He had a meeting to attend, a career to maintain, and getting involved in other people's problems had never been his strong suit. Ever since his divorce from Jennifer, Marcus had made it his policy to mind his own business and keep his distance from complicated situations. Life was simpler that way, but something about the child's stillness bothered him. She wasn't crying or calling for help. She just sat there with an acceptance that seemed far too mature for someone her age. Marcus found himself stopping completely, rain beginning to darken his expensive suit jacket. "Hey there," he called out, taking a step closer. "Are you okay?" The little girl looked up, revealing the most expressive brown eyes Marcus had ever seen. They were eyes that held too much knowledge, too much experience for someone so young. When she smiled, though, it was pure sunshine breaking through storm clouds. "I'm fine, mister," she said, her voice clear and confident. "I'm just waiting." "Waiting for what?" Marcus asked, moving closer despite himself. He could see now that her yellow raincoat, while clean, was patched in several places. Her shoes were worn but polished, and her braids were neat and carefully done. "For someone to want me," she replied matter-of-factly, as if discussing the weather. The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. He stood there for a moment, rain dripping from his hair, trying to process what this child had just said. "What do you mean?" Zara, though Marcus didn't know her name yet, adjusted her grip on the stuffed elephant. I live at the children's home on Capitol Hill. Miss Rodriguez says I can come to the square sometimes when the other kids get adopted, and I start feeling sad. She says the fresh air helps clear my head. Marcus felt something crack inside his chest. He looked around once more, then made a decision that surprised him. He sat down on the bench beside her, not caring about his suit or the meeting he was about to miss. How long have you been at the children's home? He asked gently. 3 years, Zara replied, swinging her legs a little faster now. Since I was 4. My mama got sick and couldn't take care of me anymore. She went to heaven when I was 5. The casual way she discussed her tragedy made it even more heartbreaking. Marcus had spent 3 years feeling sorry for himself over a failed marriage. But this child had faced real loss with more grace than he'd ever managed. I'm sorry about your mama, he said. Zara nodded. It's okay. She told me before she went to heaven that someone special would come for me someday. Someone who would love me like she did. She looked up at Marcus with those knowing eyes. Are you someone special, mister? The question caught Marcus completely off guard. He opened his mouth to respond, but found he didn't have words. In his carefully ordered world of blueprints and building codes, there were always clear answers. But this 7-year-old had just asked him something he'd never considered about himself. I don't know, he answered honestly. What's your name? Zara Williams, she said, extending a small hand with formal politeness. What's yours? Marcus Thompson, he replied, shaking her tiny hand with equal seriousness. Nice to meet you, Mr. Marcus, Zara said. Then, after a moment of thought, she added, you have kind eyes. Kind like my mama's were. Marcus felt his throat tighten. When was the last time someone had called him kind? Jennifer had used many words to describe him during their bitter divorce proceedings. Cold, distant, unavailable, but never kind. Tell me about your mama, he said, surprising himself with the question. Zara's face lit up. She was the best mama in the whole world. She made the most amazing pancakes every Sunday morning, and she sang to me every night before bed. She knew all the words to every song on the radio. The little girl's voice grew softer. When she got sick, she couldn't sing anymore. But she would hum, real quiet, until I fell asleep. As Zara talked, Marcus found himself drawn into her story. She told him about how her mother had worked 2 jobs to support them, how she had taught Zara to read before she started school, and how she had always made their tiny apartment feel like the safest place in the world. Miss Rodriguez says I'm lucky because my mama loved me so much before she went to heaven, Zara continued. She says some kids at the home never got to feel that kind of love, so they don't know what they're looking for. But I do. I'm looking for someone who will love me like my mama did. Marcus realized he'd been sitting on the bench for 20 minutes. His phone had buzzed twice with text messages, probably from his assistant wondering where he was. But for the first time in months, maybe years, he didn't care about work. He was completely absorbed in this conversation with a child who spoke with the wisdom of someone 3 times her age. How many families have you met? Marcus asked. Zara's expression grew thoughtful. Lots. Miss Rodriguez says I'm special because I'm smart and well-behaved, but... She trailed off. But what? But people usually want babies, or they want kids who look like them. I'm 7, and I'm black, and most of the families who come to the home are white people who want little white babies. She said this without bitterness, just as another fact of life she'd learned to accept. Marcus felt a surge of anger on this child's behalf. How could anyone meet Zara and not immediately recognize how special she was? How could they let skin color or age prevent them from seeing the incredible person sitting right in front of them? That's their loss, he said firmly. Any family would be lucky to have you. Zara beamed at him. You really think so? I know so. They sat in comfortable silence for a few minutes, watching people hurry through the square. The rain had lightened to a gentle mist, and a few brave pigeons had ventured out to search for crumbs near the benches. Mr. Marcus, Zara said eventually, do you have any kids? The question hit an old wound. Marcus and Jennifer had tried for years to have children. They'd gone through rounds of fertility treatments, suffered through 3 miscarriages, and watched their marriage slowly crumble under the weight of their shared disappointment. Eventually, Jennifer had left him for a colleague who already had 2 children from his first marriage. No, Marcus replied quietly. I don't have any children. Why not? Zara asked with the direct curiosity that only children possess. Marcus considered how to answer. Sometimes grown-ups want things that don't happen for them, he said carefully. Zara nodded sagely. Like how I want a family, but it hasn't happened yet. Something like that. She studied his face for a long moment. Are you sad about not having kids? Marcus realized that for the first time in years, someone was asking him about his feelings without judgment or agenda. Jennifer's questions had always carried undertones of blame or frustration. His therapist's questions felt clinical and detached. But Zara's question came from genuine caring. Yes, he admitted. I'm sad about it. Me too, she said softly. About not having a family, I mean. Something profound passed between them in that moment. A recognition of shared longing, of hearts that had been shaped by absence and disappointment. Marcus looked at this remarkable child and felt something he hadn't experienced in years. Hope. His phone rang, jolting him back to reality. The caller ID showed his assistant's name. He should answer it, should explain why he'd missed his meeting, should return to the safe predictability of his professional life. Instead, Marcus declined the call and turned back to Zara. Are you hungry? He asked. There's a good diner just down the street. They make excellent hot chocolate. Zara's eyes widened with excitement. Really? You want to have hot chocolate with me? If that's okay with you. It's more than okay, she exclaimed, jumping down on the bench. But I should call Miss Rodriguez and tell her where I'm going. She worries if I'm gone too long. Marcus stood up, his decision made before he'd even realized he was making one. Let's call her together. I'd like to meet Miss Rodriguez. As they walked toward the diner, Zara slipped her small hand into his larger one with complete trust. Marcus felt the warmth of her palm against his and realized that for the first time in 3 years, he wasn't thinking about his carefully constructed plans or his emotional walls or his fear of getting hurt again. He was thinking about how right it felt to have this little hand in his and how he didn't want to let go. Mr. Marcus? Zara said as they reached the diner door. Yes. She looked up at him with those wise, hopeful eyes. I'm really glad I met you today. Marcus squeezed her hand gently. I'm glad I met you too, Zara. Carmen Rodriguez had been working with children for 15 years, and she could usually read adults within the first few minutes of meeting them. As Marcus Thompson climbed the steps to Sunshine House with Zara's small hand clasped trustingly in his, Carmen studied his face for the telltale signs she'd learned to recognize. Was he one of the well-meaning but naive people who thought good intentions were enough? Was he seeking to fill some void in his own life without considering what was best for the child? Or was he something rarer? Someone who might genuinely understand the enormous responsibility of caring for a heart that had already been broken? Miss Rodriguez, this is Mr. Marcus, Zara announced with obvious pride. He bought me hot chocolate with extra marshmallows and listened to all my stories about Mama. Carmen extended her hand to Marcus, noting his firm handshake and the way his eyes met hers directly. Mr. Thompson, thank you for looking after our Zara today. Thank you for trusting me with her, Marcus replied. She's an exceptional young lady. Yes, she is, Carmen agreed, studying his expression. Something in his tone suggested he genuinely understood what he was saying. Would you like to come in for a few minutes? I'd love to chat. As they entered Sunshine House, Marcus was struck by the warmth of the space. Children's artwork covered the walls, and the furniture showed the comfortable wear of a place where life was truly lived. The sounds of laughter and conversation drifted from various rooms, creating an atmosphere that felt more like a large family home than an institution. Zara, why don't you go help the younger kids with their afternoon snack? Carmen suggested. Mr. Thompson and I will talk in my office. Zara looked between them with obvious concern. You're not in trouble, she assured Marcus solemnly. Miss Rodriguez just likes to make sure all the grown-ups who want to be friends with us are good people. I understand completely, Marcus said, giving her hand a gentle squeeze before releasing it. I'll see you before I leave. Carmen's office was small but welcoming, with photos of children covering nearly every available surface. Some were current residents of Sunshine House. Others were children who had found their forever families. Marcus noticed that Carmen had kept photos of the children even after they'd been adopted, a sign of someone who truly cared about their well-being beyond their time in her care. Please, have a seat, Carmen said, settling behind her desk. I have to ask, What brought you to Pioneer Square today? It seems like an unusual place for someone in a business suit to spend their afternoon. Marcus appreciated her directness. I was walking to a client meeting when I saw Zara sitting alone on a bench in the rain. I couldn't just walk past her. Why not? Carmen asked. Many people would have. It was a fair question, and one Marcus had been asking himself. I'm not sure I can explain it rationally. Something about her just called to me. She seemed so alone but so dignified at the same time. Carmen nodded. Zara has that effect on people. She's been through more trauma than most adults ever face, but she's maintained this incredible resilience and wisdom. It's both beautiful and heartbreaking. She told me about her mother, Marcus said quietly. The way she talks about her loss, there's no bitterness, no anger. Just this acceptance that seems far too mature for a 7-year-old. Zara's mother did an extraordinary job preparing her for life, even in the midst of her own struggle with cancer, Carmen explained. Lisa Williams was only 23 when she died, but she packed a lifetime of love and wisdom into the years she had with Zara. The challenge for us has been finding a family who can appreciate and nurture that foundation rather than trying to rebuild Zara from scratch. Marcus leaned forward slightly. What do you mean? Too many potential adoptive families see a child from foster care as a blank slate or a project to fix. They want to erase the child's history and start over with their own vision of who that child should be. But Zara doesn't need to be fixed. She needs to be loved and supported as exactly who she is. The passion in Carmen's voice was unmistakable, and Marcus found himself respecting this woman immensely. How long has Zara been waiting for adoption? 3 years, Carmen said, her expression growing sad. She's been matched with 4 different families during that time. 2 families withdrew their applications when they met her in person, I suspect because she wasn't what they were expecting when they requested an African-American child. 1 family tried to foster her for 3 months, but returned her because they said she was too precocious and asked too many questions about her birth mother. Marcus felt anger surge through him. They returned her? Like she was a defective product? The 4th family. Carmen's voice grew even quieter. They wanted to adopt her, but insisted she stop talking about her mother and start calling them Mama and Daddy immediately. When Zara explained that she needed time to grieve and adjust, they decided she was too attached to her past to bond with them properly. Marcus was quiet for a long moment, processing this information. How could people be so cruel to a child who had already suffered so much loss? How could they not see that Zara's love for her mother was a strength, not a flaw? She still believes someone will want her, he said finally. She does. Her faith in love and family is unshakable, which makes it our responsibility to be very careful about who we allow into her life. Every disappointment breaks a little piece of her heart, even though she hides it well. Carmen studied Marcus carefully. Which brings me to my question, Mr. Thompson. What do you want from Zara? The question caught Marcus off guard. I'm not sure I understand. Some people want to help children because it makes them feel good about themselves. Others see a cute child and want to play at being a parent without understanding the real commitment involved. Others are looking for someone to fill a hole in their own lives. What category do you fall into? Marcus considered the question seriously. I don't know if I fall into any of those categories. Honestly, I wasn't looking for anything when I met Zara today. I was just a man walking to a meeting who couldn't ignore a child sitting alone in the rain. But now, after spending time with her, Marcus thought about the afternoon, Zara's stories, her wisdom, her infectious joy, the way she'd made him laugh and think and feel more alive than he had in years. Now I find myself hoping I can be the kind of person worthy of her friendship, he said honestly. She's remarkable, Carmen. In 3 hours, she's reminded me of things about life and connection that I'd forgotten. I'd like to get to know her better, if that's something you'd consider allowing. Carmen was quiet for several minutes, studying Marcus's face. Finally, she spoke. I'm going to be very direct with you, Mr. Thompson. Zara doesn't need another disappointment in her life. If you're going through some kind of midlife crisis or looking for a temporary feel-good project, please walk away now. But if you're genuinely interested in building a relationship with her, as a mentor, a friend, maybe eventually something more, then we can talk about what that might look like. I understand, Marcus said, and I can't promise I won't disappoint her eventually. I'm human, and Humans are imperfect. But I can promise that I won't enter her life lightly or leave it casually. Carmen nodded slowly. Zara mentioned that you don't have children. Can I ask why? Marcus felt the familiar ache of old wounds. My ex-wife and I tried for years to have children. We went through fertility treatments, had multiple miscarriages. Eventually, it cost us our marriage. I'm sorry, Carmen said with genuine sympathy. That must have been incredibly difficult. It was. For a long time, I convinced myself that I wasn't meant to be a parent, that children weren't part of my story. But meeting Zara today, he paused, struggling to find the right words. She's made me wonder if maybe I was looking at parenthood the wrong way. Maybe it's not about biology or perfect timing. Maybe it's about recognizing love when it shows up and having the courage to embrace it. Something shifted in Carmen's expression. That's a very mature perspective, Mr. Thompson. Marcus, please. Marcus, I'm going to propose something unconventional. Normally, when adults express interest in our children, we go through extensive background checks, home visits, interviews, a process that takes months. But Zara has been failed by that system multiple times, and my instincts about people are usually good. She leaned forward. I'd like to invite you to visit Zara regularly for the next few weeks. Come for dinner, help with homework, participate in our weekend activities. Let both of you get to know each other in a natural setting without the pressure of formal adoption proceedings. If things go well, and you both decide you want to explore adoption, we'll begin the official process. If not, no harm done. Marcus felt his heart racing. You'd trust me with that kind of access to Zara? I'd trust you with that kind of opportunity to prove yourself, Carmen corrected. Zara has excellent judgment about people, and she clearly likes you. But, more importantly, the way you've talked about her today tells me you see her as a whole person, not a project or a solution to your problems. Before Marcus could respond, there was a knock on the office door. Come in, Carmen called. Zara peeked her head around the door, her expression anxious. Are you done talking? Is Mr. Marcus leaving? Carmen smiled. Come here, sweetheart. Mr. Marcus and I have been discussing something you might be interested in. Zara entered the room and immediately went to Marcus's side, climbing into the chair next to him with the easy familiarity of a child who had decided he belonged in her world. Zara, Carmen said gently, how would you feel if Mr. Marcus came to visit you here regularly? Maybe have dinner with us, help with activities, spend time getting to know all of us better? Zara's eyes went wide with excitement. But then, her expression became serious. Would you really want to do that, Mr. Marcus? Even when I'm not all dressed up and on my best behavior? Even when I'm sad or grumpy or just regular? Marcus felt his throat constrict with emotion. How could she think she needed to be anything other than herself? Especially then, he said firmly. Zara, I've had one of the best afternoons of my life today, and it wasn't because you were performing for me. It was because you were completely, authentically yourself. That's exactly who I'd want to spend more time with. Zara studied his face for a long moment, and Marcus held his breath, waiting for her verdict. Finally, she smiled, that radiant, sunshine smile that had first captured his attention. I would love that more than anything in the whole world, she said. Then, it's settled, Carmen said. Marcus, how does dinner tomorrow evening sound? Say 6 o'clock. Perfect, Marcus replied, though internally he was wondering how he was going to concentrate on work between now and then. As he prepared to leave, Zara walked him to the front porch. Mr. Marcus, she said, tugging on his jacket to get his attention. Yes. She looked up at him with those wise, hopeful eyes, and Marcus sensed she was about to say something important. I know you probably think I'm just a little kid who doesn't understand grown-up things, she began carefully. Zara, I've never met a child who understood grown-up things better than you do. Marcus interrupted gently. She smiled at this, but continued. What I wanted to say is, I know you're sad about not having a family of your own. I can see it in your eyes sometimes. The same sadness I see in the mirror when I think about not having a mama anymore. Marcus knelt down to her eye level, struck once again by her perceptiveness. But, maybe, Zara continued, her voice soft but determined. Maybe 6 weeks later, Marcus found himself standing in the kitchen of Sunshine House at 5:30 in the morning, helping Zara pack her lunch for school. It had become their routine. He would arrive early, help her get ready for the day, drive her to school, then return in the evening for homework time and dinner. On weekends, they explored Seattle together, visited museums, went to movies, or simply spent quiet time reading in the house's comfortable living room. The transformation in both their lives had been remarkable and gradual all at once. "Don't forget, I have my presentation about elephants today," Zara reminded him as she carefully arranged her lunch in her backpack. She had chosen to do her report on elephant family structures, and Marcus had helped her create poster boards showing how elephant matriarchs care for their herds. "I could never forget something that important," Marcus assured her. "Are you nervous?" "A little," Zara admitted. "But Miss Johnson says nervousness just means you care about doing well. And I really want to do well because elephants are important." Marcus smiled as he handed her the water bottle they'd filled together. Everything was important to Zara: her schoolwork, her friends, the plants she was growing on the windowsill of her room, the stories she wrote in her journal every night. Her enthusiasm for life was infectious, and Marcus found himself caring about things that had never mattered to him before simply because they mattered to her. "You're going to do amazing," he said, checking to make sure she had her library book for reading time. "And I can't wait to hear all about it tonight." As they walked to his car, Zara slipped her hand into his, a gesture that had become natural for both of them. Marcus no longer worried about the professional meetings he'd started declining or the evening social obligations he'd begun politely refusing. His priorities had shifted dramatically, and he felt more fulfilled than he had in years. "Mr. Marcus," Zara said as they drove through the morning Seattle traffic, "can I ask you something serious?" "Of course. You can ask me anything." Zara was quiet for a moment, organizing her thoughts the way she always did before important conversations. "Do you think my mama would like you?" The question hit Marcus in the chest. Over the past weeks, he'd learned more about Lisa Williams through Zara's stories, and he'd come to deeply respect the woman who had raised such an extraordinary daughter. He'd also come to understand that Zara's relationship with her mother's memory was sacred, and any place he might have in her life would need to honor that. "I don't know," Marcus answered honestly. "But I hope she would. I hope she'd see that I love you and want to protect you and help you grow into the amazing woman I know you're going to become." "I think she would like you," Zara said decisively. She always said she could judge people by how they treated children and animals and people who couldn't do anything for them. "You're really nice to all the little kids at the house, and you helped Mrs. Patterson next door carry her groceries last week even though she couldn't pay you or anything." Marcus hadn't realized Zara had noticed his interaction with their elderly neighbor. "Your mama sounds like she was very wise." "She was. And she always told me that when the right person came along, I would know it in my heart. Not just my head, but my heart." Zara placed her small hand over her chest. "My heart knows about you, Mr. Marcus." Marcus had to pull over to the curb because his vision was blurring with tears. He turned to look at this remarkable child who had somehow found the courage to love again after losing so much. "My heart knows about you too, Zara," he said softly. "It has since that first day in the square." When they reached Lincoln Elementary, Zara kissed his cheek goodbye, another new ritual, and bounded out of the car with her backpack and elephant presentation. Marcus watched her run up the steps to join her friends, marveling at how completely she'd changed his understanding of what family could look like. His phone buzzed with a text message from Carmen Rodriguez. "Can you stop by my office this morning? I have something I'd like to discuss with you." Marcus felt a flutter of anxiety. In the weeks since he'd been visiting Zara regularly, his relationship with Carmen had grown into genuine friendship and mutual respect. She'd seen him navigate Zara's occasional nightmares, help her through a difficult day when she'd been teased at school, and demonstrate the kind of patience and consistency that couldn't be faked. But formal conversations with Carmen still made him nervous. When he arrived at Sunshine House an hour later, Carmen was waiting for him with coffee and a serious expression. "How are things going, Marcus?" she asked as they settled in her office. "Better than I ever could have imagined," he replied honestly. "Zara is." He paused, searching for adequate words. "She's transformed my entire understanding of what it means to love someone unconditionally." Carmen smiled. "She's had quite an impact on you." "That's an understatement. 6 weeks ago, I was a man who measured success by architectural awards and client satisfaction. Now I measure it by whether Zara feels loved and supported and confident enough to give a presentation about elephants. And what about the challenges? Carmen asked. It hasn't all been easy, has it? Marcus appreciated her directness. No, it hasn't all been easy. The nightmares were hard at first, watching her relive her mother's death and not being able to fix that pain. The questions about why some families had rejected her were heartbreaking. And, honestly, learning to put another person's needs before my own has been an adjustment. But you've stuck with it. Carmen, there was never a question of not sticking with it. The first time Zara had a nightmare and reached for my hand in the dark, I knew I would do whatever it took to help her feel safe and loved. Carmen nodded approvingly. That's exactly what I hoped you'd say. Why? Is something wrong? Carmen shook her head, but her expression remained serious. Nothing's wrong. In fact, everything is very right. That's why I wanted to talk to you today. She pulled a folder from her desk drawer. I've been observing you and Zara together for 6 weeks now. I've watched you at dinner every evening, seen you help with homework, witnessed how you handle both her joyful moments and her difficult ones. I've also run a complete background check, contacted your references, and had several long conversations with my supervisor about your situation. Marcus's heart began racing. And I believe you're ready to begin the formal adoption process, if that's something you want to pursue. The words hit Marcus like a physical force. Adoption, making Zara officially, legally his daughter. He'd been thinking about it for weeks, but hadn't dared to hope it might actually be possible. Carmen, I want that more than I've ever wanted anything in my life, he said, his voice shaking slightly. But shouldn't there be more steps? More evaluations? More time? Typically, yes, Carmen agreed. But your situation is unusual in several ways. First, you've essentially been functioning as Zara's primary caregiver for 6 weeks under our supervision. Second, Zara has been in our system for 3 years, so we have extensive documentation of her needs and personality. And third, she paused, smiling slightly. I've never seen a better match between an adult and a child. You two were meant to find each other. Marcus felt overwhelmed with emotion. What happens next? We file the initial paperwork with the state, schedule the required home visits and interviews, and begin the legal process. Given your circumstances and the fact that you've already been extensively evaluated, the process should take about 3 to 4 months. And Zara? Does she know you're having this conversation with me? Carmen shook her head. I wanted to talk to you first. This decision has to be yours before it can be hers. Are you ready to commit to being Zara's father for the rest of her life? Through teenage rebellion and college anxiety and whatever challenges might come. Are you ready to be the person she calls when she's scared or excited or needs advice? Are you ready to love her unconditionally, even when she makes mistakes or disappoints you? Marcus thought about the question seriously. 6 weeks ago, the idea of such responsibility would have terrified him. Now, it felt like the most natural thing in the world. Carmen, I've been ready for that since the day I met her. I just didn't know it yet. Then, let's go talk to her together. When Zara returned from school that afternoon, she found Marcus and Carmen waiting for her in the living room, both wearing expressions that made her immediately suspicious. Am I in trouble? She asked cautiously, setting down her backpack. Quite the opposite, Carmen said gently. Come sit with us. We have something important to talk to you about. Zara climbed onto the couch between Marcus and Carmen, her presentation materials scattered around her. I got an A+ on my elephant report, she announced proudly. Mrs. Johnson said it was the best presentation she's ever seen from a second grader. That's wonderful, sweetheart, Marcus said, giving her a hug. I'm so proud of you. Zara, Carmen began carefully. You know that, mister. Marcus has been spending a lot of time with you over the past few weeks. Best weeks of my whole life, Zara confirmed happily. And how would you feel if Mr. Marcus could spend even more time with you? If he could be your family permanently? Zara's eyes widened as she processed what Carmen was suggesting. She looked back and forth between the two adults, her expression growing serious. You mean like adoption? She asked quietly. Like being a real family? If that's what you want, Marcus said gently. If you want me to be your dad, I would love nothing more than to make that official. Zara was quiet for a long moment, and Marcus felt his heart hammering in his chest. Had he misread their connection? Was she having second thoughts? Finally, she spoke. Mr. Marcus, I need to ask you some important questions first. Of course, ask me anything. Zara turned to face him fully, her expression solemn and mature. Will you love me even when I'm not perfect? Even when I make mistakes or get bad grades or forget to clean my room? Zara, I will love you no matter what. There is nothing you could ever do that would make me stop loving you. Will you help me remember my mama? Will you let me talk about her and keep her pictures and tell you stories about her? Marcus felt tears welling up. Sweetheart, your mama is part of who you are, and I love every part of who you are. I would never want you to forget her or stop talking about her. She'll always be your first mama, and I hope I can honor her memory by taking good care of the amazing daughter she raised. Will you stay forever? Even when things get hard or scary or complicated. Forever and always, Marcus promised. You'll never. 4 months later, Marcus stood in the King County Courthouse wearing his best suit and the biggest smile of his life. Beside him, Zara wore a beautiful purple dress, her favorite color, that they had picked out together specifically for this day. Her hair was styled in elegant braids adorned with small purple flowers, and she clutched a framed photograph of her mother that she had asked to bring to the ceremony. Are you ready for this, sweetheart? Marcus asked, straightening his tie nervously. I've been ready for this my whole life, Daddy, Zara replied with complete confidence. The word still sent a thrill through Marcus's heart. Zara had started calling him Daddy 3 weeks after their conversation with Carmen, and each time felt like a gift he didn't deserve, but was infinitely grateful to receive. The past 4 months had been a whirlwind of paperwork, home visits, interviews, and preparations for their new life together. Marcus had moved to a larger apartment with a yard where Zara could play, complete with a bedroom she had decorated with elephant posters and photos of her mother. He had learned to braid hair, to navigate the complex social dynamics of 7-year-old friendships, and to find the perfect balance between structure and flexibility that Zara needed. There had been challenges, moments when Zara's grief for her mother would surface unexpectedly, times when Marcus questioned whether he was making the right decisions, nights when he lay awake wondering if he was truly equipped to raise such an extraordinary child. But through it all, their bond had only grown stronger. They had learned to be a family in the most authentic way possible, through daily small acts of love, patience, and commitment. Thompson family, called a clerk from behind the counter. That's us, Marcus said, taking Zara's hand. Ready, Zara Williams Thompson? Ready, Daddy. Judge Patricia Hernandez's chambers were warm and welcoming, with family photos covering her desk and children's artwork decorating the walls. She was a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and a reputation for making adoption ceremonies special for the family she served. Good morning, Judge Hernandez said warmly as they entered. You must be Marcus and Zara. I've been looking forward to meeting you both. Good morning, Your Honor, Marcus replied, while Zara offered a polite curtsy that made both adults smile. Carmen Rodriguez was there as well, along with the social worker who had conducted their home visits and the attorney who had helped navigate the legal process. But for Marcus and Zara, everyone else faded into the background as they focused on the moment they had been waiting for. Before we begin, Judge Hernandez said, I like to talk with families about what adoption really means. Zara, do you understand what's happening today? Zara stepped forward confidently. Today, Mr. Marcus, I mean my daddy, and I are making it official that we're a family forever. We already know we love each other and want to take care of each other, but today makes it legal so nobody can ever separate us. Judge Hernandez nodded approvingly. That's exactly right. And, Marcus, are you prepared to take full responsibility for Zara's physical, emotional, and financial well-being for as long as she needs you? I am, Your Honor. More than prepared. I'm honored to have that responsibility. Zara, the judge continued, do you want Marcus to be your father? Yes, ma'am, Zara replied without hesitation. He's already the best daddy in the world, and I want to be his daughter forever and always. Judge Hernandez smiled broadly. In that case, let's make this official. As the judge read the formal language of the adoption decree, Marcus felt the weight and wonder of the moment. In a few minutes, this remarkable child would legally be his daughter, and he would be her father. All the fear, all the uncertainty, all the years of thinking parenthood wasn't meant for him. It all faded away as he looked down at Zara's radiant face. By the power vested in me by the state of Washington, Judge Hernandez concluded, I hereby grant this petition for adoption. Marcus Thompson, you are now the legal father of Zara Williams Thompson. Congratulations to the new Thompson family. The room erupted in applause and cheers. Carmen wiped tears from her eyes. The social worker beamed with satisfaction, and the attorney shook Marcus's hand enthusiastically. But Marcus only had eyes for Zara, who had launched herself into his arms with such force that he nearly lost his balance. We did it, Daddy, she exclaimed. We're really, truly family now. We were always family, baby girl. Marcus whispered into her hair. This just makes it official. As they signed the final paperwork and posed for photos with Judge Hernandez, Marcus reflected on the incredible journey that had brought them to this moment. 8 months ago, he had been a man walking through life in emotional isolation, convinced that he was better off alone. Today, he was a father, legally and completely responsible for the most precious person in his world. There's one more surprise, Zara announced as they gathered their things to leave the courthouse. She reached into her small purse and pulled out a carefully wrapped package. This is for you, Daddy. Marcus opened the gift to find a simple wooden picture frame containing a drawing Zara had made. It showed 2 stick figures, one tall, one small, holding hands under a rainbow. At the top, in Zara's careful second-grade handwriting, were the words, My Daddy and me, forever family. Zara, this is the most beautiful thing anyone has ever given me, Marcus said, his voice thick with emotion. Look on the back, she instructed. Marcus turned the frame over to find a note written in Zara's best cursive. Dear Daddy, thank you for choosing me. Thank you for loving me. Thank you for being the best dad I could have dreamed of. I love you more than all the elephants in Africa. Your daughter forever, Zara. I love you too, sweetheart, Marcus managed to say through his tears. More than you'll ever know. The celebration continued at Sunshine House, where Carmen had organized a party for the children and staff who had become Zara's extended family. The dining room was decorated with purple streamers and balloons, and a cake shaped like an elephant, Zara's special request, sat in the center of the table. As Marcus watched Zara accept congratulations from the other children, many of whom were still waiting for their own forever families, he was struck by the responsibility he now carried. He wasn't just Zara's father. He was proof to these other children that families could be found, that love could triumph over loss, that someone would choose them too. She's going to do great things, Carmen said, joining Marcus as they watched Zara demonstrate her new elephant facts to a group of younger children. She already has, Marcus replied. She saved me before I even knew I needed saving. That's what the right children do for the right parents, Carmen observed. They don't just join families, they create them. That evening, as Marcus tucked Zara into bed in their home, their real home now, officially and forever, she looked up at him with serious eyes. Daddy, can I tell you something important? Always, sweetheart. I used to be scared that I was asking for too much when I wished for a family. I thought maybe I was being greedy because I already had Mama for 5 years, and maybe that was supposed to be enough love for one little girl. Marcus sat down on the edge of her bed, his heart aching for all the doubts this child had carried. Oh, Zara. But now I know that love isn't like that. Love doesn't run out or get used up. My mama's love made me ready for your love, and your love makes me remember hers even better. And maybe someday, when I'm all grown up, I'll have even more love to give to someone else. Marcus marveled once again at his daughter's wisdom. You're absolutely right, baby girl. Love multiplies, it never subtracts. And Daddy? I think Mama would be really happy about today. I think she's proud that we found each other. I think so too, Marcus agreed, kissing her forehead. Sweet dreams, Zara Williams Thompson. Sweet dreams, Daddy. As Marcus turned off the light and headed toward his own room, he passed the bathroom mirror and caught sight of his reflection. The man looking back at him bore little resemblance to the isolated, emotionally guarded person he had been 8 months ago. This man's eyes held warmth and purpose. This man's face showed the lines of frequent laughter. This man was someone's father, someone's whole world, someone's hero. In his bedroom, Marcus placed Zara's drawing on his nightstand where he could see it first thing every morning and last thing every night. Then he pulled out his phone and did something he hadn't done in years. He called his own mother. "Marcus? Is everything okay? You never call this late." His mother's worried voice came through the speaker. "Everything's perfect, Mom," Marcus said. "I wanted to tell you that today I became a father." After a moment of shocked silence, his mother's voice came back much softer. "Tell me everything." For the next hour, Marcus told his mother about Zara, about the rainy day in Pioneer Square, about their courtship over hot chocolate and elephant reports, about the adoption ceremony and the celebration and the incredible gift of unconditional love he had discovered through this remarkable child. "I can't wait to meet her," his mother said, tears evident in her voice. "She sounds absolutely wonderful." "She is, Mom. She's everything I never knew I was looking for." "And Marcus? Your father and I were proud of you. We know this wasn't the path you planned, but it sounds like it was the path you were meant to take." After ending the call, Marcus lay in bed listening to the quiet sounds of his daughter sleeping down the hall. The occasional rustle of sheets, the soft murmur of dream words, the peaceful breathing of a child who finally felt completely safe and loved. Tomorrow would bring new adventures: soccer practice for Zara, a parent-teacher conference to attend, a birthday party to plan for next month when Zara turned 8. Tomorrow would bring all the beautiful, ordinary challenges and joys of family life. But tonight, Marcus simply marveled at the miraculous chain of events that had led him to this moment. A missed meeting, a chance encounter, a question asked with perfect trust. "Mister, will you be my dad?" The answer had changed both their lives forever. In her room down the hall, Zara Williams Thompson slept peacefully, clutching her stuffed elephant and dreaming of cloud castles and elephant families and the daddy who had chosen to love her exactly as she was. Her mama had been right. Someone special had come for her, just as promised. And in the master bedroom, Marcus Thompson, architect, introvert, and now proud father, slept better than he had in years, knowing that he had finally found his true calling. Not designing buildings, but building a family. Not constructing walls, but creating a home filled with laughter and love and the extraordinary bond between a father and the daughter who had taught him that the most important blueprints in life are drawn with the heart. Their story was far from over. In fact, it had only just begun. But as the Seattle rain fell gently against their windows and two hearts beat contentedly under the same roof, it was clear that some beginnings are really completions. The moment when everything that was meant to be finally falls into place, and love wins the day. "Have to worry about me leaving you, Zara?" "Never." Zara studied his face for another moment, then broke into the biggest smile Marcus had ever seen. "Then, yes," she exclaimed, throwing herself into his arms. "Yes, yes, yes. I want you to be my dad more than anything in the whole world." As Marcus held his soon-to-be daughter, breathing in the scent of her hair and feeling the fierce strength of her small arms around his neck, he realized that his life had just acquired a meaning and purpose he'd never known was possible. "There's one more thing," Zara said, pulling back to look at him. "I want to keep Williams as my middle name, so I'll remember Mama. But I want to take your last name too, so everyone will know we're a real family." Zara Williams Thompson, Marcus said, testing the sound of it. "It's perfect. Just like us," Zara agreed, settling contentedly in her father's arms. Carmen watched the two of them with satisfaction and joy. After 15 years of working with children, she'd learned to recognize when something was truly meant to be. This was one of those moments, a moment when love triumphed over loss, when hope proved stronger than fear, and when two hearts that had been searching finally found their home in each other. Outside, the Seattle rain began to fall again. But inside Sunshine House, a new family was being born from the beautiful collision of destiny and choice, need and love, one man's open heart, and one little girl's unshakable faith that somewhere in the world was someone meant just for her. "We could be sad together until we figure out how to be happy together. Maybe we could be each other's family." The words hung in the air between them, simple and profound. Marcus felt tears prick his eyes as he realized this 7-year-old was offering him exactly what they both needed. Not a perfect solution, but a chance to heal together, to build something beautiful from their shared understanding of loss and hope. I would be honored to be your family, Zara, he whispered. If you'll have me. Zara threw her arms around his neck in a fierce hug. I'll have you, Mr. Marcus. I'll have you forever and always. As Marcus drove home that evening, his mind raced with everything that had changed in the span of a single afternoon. This morning he had been a man focused solely on his career, convinced that emotional isolation was safer than vulnerability. Tonight, he was someone who had been chosen by an extraordinary child and was contemplating the most important decision of his life. His phone buzzed with a text from his assistant asking about the missed meeting and rescheduled appointments. Marcus typed back a brief response, then put his phone away. For the first time in years, work felt like the least important thing in his world. Tomorrow, he would have dinner with Zara and begin the process of discovering whether they could truly become the family they both longed for. Tonight, he would allow himself to hope for something he'd never dared to imagine, the chance to be a father to a child who needed him as much as he needed her. Neither of them could have imagined that this chance encounter would be the beginning of the most important relationship of their lives. Neither could have predicted that within months, a successful architect and a 7-year-old girl would become the family they'd both been searching for without even knowing it. But as they settled into a booth at the diner and Zara began telling him about her stuffed elephant named Peanut, Marcus felt something he hadn't felt since childhood, the pure joy of connecting with another person without pretense or protection. And, for the first time in years, the future felt full of possibilities.